Hi, it's Tiffany Lorraine Galloway, certified high performance coach with another episode of the Resilient Mother podcast. Today, I have an exciting episode for you with Kate McKay, a good friend of mine, a success coach, and we are going to nail the subject of resilient identity for you today. So pay attention and get ready and buckle up because here we go. Hey, Kate, thank you for joining me. I'm so excited to have you here with me. We met in the coaching world, and you're someone I look up to and has been nice to talk to and just get an idea of what it is to really step into your identity with confidence to be resilient. Can you introduce yourself to us and then speak a little bit about resilience in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this is such an important topic. Like, what is resiliency, right? Well, resiliency is our ability to bounce, our ability to look around, see where we are, and make decisions and really go through our heart and be able to make the right choices for us. And a lot of times for our family. And that's an art form, isn't it? It's an art form for sure. When you take in other beings around you, it's really quite amazing.
How do you honor people's identity? How have you done that with yourself and finding your own truth and stepping into it and evolving with it and stepping into new identities as you want to grow? And how have you taught your kids to do that as a mom?
That's a good question. So identity is an evolution. So I think before we have kids, we are one thing, but as we evolve and become moms, our identity shifts, and it comes with something that's very, very important. I think it's a sense of responsibility, that we feel more responsible. And it's like, it can be like, whoa, it's got like the first child, when we birth them, we're like, they let us leave the hospital with this. And we're like, wait a minute, are we going to get arrested? Because it's like this little being, right? And it raises our sense of responsibility. And I think a key aspect of resiliency is understanding there comes a responsibility in our evolution. And I think that we have to give ourselves grace as we evolve through our identity. And what is identity anyway? I mean, how would you describe that, Tiffany? How would you describe your identity right now in your life?
Well, I feel that definitely has evolved over time, but it's been finding my own voice and what brings me peace and what feels like flow for me. And at first, it was a little unfamiliar growing up in a very chaotic home and not really having a voice. So it was unfamiliar at first, but I had to go back to what was really me. When did I feel alive? When did I feel joy? And go back to those times and figure out, okay, what was going on? How did that become part of my experience? And how can I recreate it again? And then I could see, oh, well, music was tied to it, or I could see movement was tied to it, or I could see serving someone else was tied to it. And then I could put the pieces together. And then when I knew it, I could protect it. And I think that's true as a mother as well. You see what your kids are interested in, and you give them the opportunity to grow in it. And then you help them learn how to protect it, protect their voice, protect their truth. And so it's important to step into your identity, take care of yourself as a mom, so you can be the example that your kids can follow.
Well, I think that's tough, right? In a culture that is, moms are in comparison mode. It's like, how many classes your kids in? I mean, I remember this very, very clearly. And I'm like, the McKay and Boynton household, we don't get up early. Like, we do one activity a day. And every single day, my kids had a hot meal when they got off the bus. That was my identity as a mom. And the nourishment of my children was very, very important. And I remember the women in the group going, what are you spoiling your kids for? Like giving them a hot meal. I'm like, they're hungry. And I know when they're at school, like warm food was just my thing. And I know that in some ways we have to decide for ourselves what is right for our children and what is right for us and what honors us and our identity as a mom. And maybe I didn't fit in. Maybe I was a little different, but I realized like what was right for me. And as you said, like growing up in a family I'm one of 9 kids. You know, I know you're brought up in a different spiritual home, but mine was like this Catholic home, and where it was very, very spiritually centered. And we shared food. It was a very important part. And for me, food is central. And I think that that's part of my identity is still to this day. I always have cookie dough in my refrigerator because I never know when people are going to come over and I got to make warm cookies. And people, I am empty nested. And I have cookie dough in my refrigerator. If my refrigerator isn't full of food, I get anxious. That's my identity. I want to nurture bodies. And that has been, I would tell you, that was the most yummiest aspect. And I'm going to tell you, share a story that I think is a really important part of my identity as a mom. In 2017, I lost a son. I lost a child baby, my most spiritual baby, my holy child, decided to end his life. And that was it's a big shift. Yeah. So am I a mother of 3 or I'm only a mother of 2? Wait, no, I'm still a mother. Yeah. Right. And that was it was such a big deal. And, the reason why I bring this story up is because he was in a monastery in California. And in the monastery, they didn't eat. They ate 1 meal a day, and they had to acquiesce and feed the older monks first, of higher order. So I was freaking out, going, "Oh my God, my son's not getting enough food." And I was super anxious. So every week I would make these cookies and I would jam them with fat. There wasn't enough nuts and, coconut oil, whatever I could put. And I called them monk cookies. And I mailed them out to him because it was part of my identity to feed my babies. And I think it's really important as a mom is to really identify that quality in yourself that brings you home to your best self. How are you feeding people? And this is how I feed my babies. And this is how I feed people. I'm a nurturer. And it's the same way in my coaching, Tiffany. I'm here to nurture people and to really bring out their highest and best self. And you know what? As you know, sometimes that means we challenge. Sometimes that means we push through people's resistance to bring them back into their authentic self, their true identification of who they are and who they came here to be.
And often I think they have the answers inside them. And a coach's job is just to bring them out, to help them go, no, you know who you are. You know what the answer is. Now do it. Let me see you do it. I'm here to guide you. No, you said
we're just powerful mirrors, aren't we? And I think that it's very important for us to know that our children come through us. My son made a decision to ascend, as his friends describe it, to end his life here on earth. And yet he had free will. His name was Will. So he had free will. He was 22. And so he had free will. So who am I to hold himself here? And so my biggest adjustment was understanding that the highest gift I had in this life was to birth an angel, because he truly was. And then to honor myself by releasing an angel. And this is the truth, is that after he passed, and I was like, man, I did some serious spiritual and psychological work. Serious. I had to go to the ugly on the knees, right? And realizing that my identity had shifted. Who was I now? And so I say to all of you listeners, there are going to be times in your life you're going to go through something that your identity is going to shift in a massive way. Who are you now? And trust and believe, Tiffany, just like you said, who was I when I was young? What did I love? Oh, I loved good food. I loved the laughter. I loved to love on babies. And I loved to ignite people into their greatness. And it's still who I am. I'm still, I believe, a divine nurturer, even though it comes in a different package.
Someone listening may be going, wow, this lady has so much confidence in who she is and didn't care what anyone else think and stepped into it. If someone admires that and wants to step into that, what are some steps or techniques you would give them to find that truth in themselves and trust it?
What a beautiful question. Well, I'm going to lead out by saying I was a hot mess and I never fit in, right? I felt like a misfit because I was too loud, too passionate, too enthusiastic. And we often define our dysfunction and the way we close ourselves down, the beautiful essence of our identity, by having to close that down because we're too much of something. So Tiffany, what did you hear you were too of?
Oh, I'm eccentric. I'm too loud. I have too much energy. I'm too excited. And it's been interesting to shift and just own it and realize that's my superpower of who I am. I can come into a room.
Bizarre, right? Because even at the time I've known you, I met you when you were just like, wait a minute, What's the matter with this tube? Like when I first met you, you were like confused a little bit by like, why, this is kind of good, isn't it? And all the viewers and listeners, what are those areas in your life that you heard over and over again, you were two of? And what I want to say to you is own it. That is your core identity. That's your yummy. Those are the parts of you where you're actually going to have the biggest impact on the people around you. And I'm telling you, it doesn't matter if you're talking about the way you mother, the way you love, the way you make food, and even, my dear friends, the way you grieve. The way you grieve. Because I'm telling you right now, I didn't grieve like everyone wanted me to. I grieved very differently. Because you know why? I honor my son, and I honored his identity because he made a choice. He came through me. He was a sacrificial lamb of my healing. And to this day, I'm deeply, deeply grateful that I was chosen to be his mama.
I really do believe that God gives us the children that we have for a reason. And if we were meant to be their mamas, it was because he knew we could handle whatever was coming our way with them. Either we're there for them or they're there for us. It's this beautiful relationship we have in motherhood that helps us grow and expand in ways nothing else can. But that relationship doesn't end. And we've had a few people on here for different reasons of grief, whether it was problems with fertility and loss, or grief, or cancer and not being able to have kids. We've had that subject here in depth. And I'm not scared of it. And I feel like you're not scared of it, because we're willing to go there, and we're willing to see that that's where you find yourself, in those valleys, in those deep places. That's when you can make the miraculous change of really owning your identity of who you are, or changing, or evolving, or having a transformation. That's the metamorphosis moment where you've got to get yourself out of the cocoon. Nobody else can do it for you, and you can only do it your own way.
It's so true. And the other side of resilience is an extraordinary level of grit. Grit in the way that we love fiercely, that we won't succumb, that we won't give in. And, we hear about post-traumatic stress, and my mom lived through it. I mean, I'm one of 9 children, as I mentioned earlier. And my brother was murdered at the same age that my son committed suicide. And oddly enough, my mother was 54 and I was 54. So we had 2 sons that were 22 and both of us were 54. So my mom never dealt with the grief. So understand that this resilience, really what it meant for me was, I get the calling, that I had to lean in to honor my son, to be honest, and honor myself as a mom. And I was going to do it different, even if everyone around me was like, and the thing is the identity for me personally was, Katie's so like you, boo. Katie's so positive. She's so enthusiastic. I was known in my city. I'm writing articles. I was, known in my community. And so when I lose my child, everyone's like, what's Katie going to do now? So the spotlight's on me. And I'm like, I'm going to do it different. And you know what? I leaned into the mess of grief, and I was not going to roll up. I wasn't going to become an alcoholic, and I wasn't going to do what my mom did, which was deny the grief and stuff the grief. I was like, over my son's body, will I do that? And so when you make a different decision, and this really goes back to the identity topic, when you decide to make a difference and make a different decision, even from your family of origin, it's going to bring something up. Right? Tiffany, you know this. It's going to bring something up. But if you're clear on your calling, and you're coming from a place of love, and you're coming from a place that isn't even you, it's like, this is the right thing. I can feel it in my belly, and people are looking at me like, no. And they felt so uncomfortable because I'm like, oh no, I'm going to show you what it looks like. And I'm telling you, there was a lot of relationships that fell away, but it didn't fall away. My faith. You didn't fall away. Yep. My resiliency. It didn't fall away. My love of life. That didn't fall away. I did have to redefine what my meaning was. I really did, Tiff. I was like, who am I now? Right? And because you have to rebirth. And there are going to be times in your life, all you mamas, that you're going to have to redefine the rebirthing of who you are. When you birth a baby, when you have another baby, when you have marital struggles, when relationships fall away around you, when your babies leave the nest, and even when you lose a baby, you still have to redefine yourself. And boy, the power of resiliency comes from the source of faith and self-love and knowing you're here for more. You're modeling what it means to be resilient and to be grace in action.
I know in my life, I found that faith and God really have been the core and center of who I am. And when everyone else and everything else has fallen away, He's always there. He's the constant, and His love is constant. And I don't know where I would be today without that. And it's so important to me that my children understand that source as well.
And it's true because like even in our, because we're both certified as high performance coaches, right? We've done through the same certification, but the bottom line is you're going to meet people and you're like, so, like, what's your spiritual background? They're gonna be like, yeah, I don't believe in God. And you're like, okay, well, you're going to get 20% of the way there. Because literally, and I'm not saying that like it has to be one religion, because I'm not like that, because I believe there's many paths to God. But like, if you don't have a spiritual practice, if you don't think that there's some form of energy that's drawing you forth, that you're called to serve, and you have your energy, this vertical energy is driving you. If you just think your relationships are horizontal, it's going to be a long road. You know what I mean? And I think that when you and I think I was surrounded by a lot of people that over intellectualized grief and over intellectualized a lot of processes, where this is a heart-centered, faith is heart-centered. It knows no boundaries, just like your mothering. It's not something that you can say, this is how it is. We each mother in very unique and beautiful ways. And so how do we honor other moms? And how do we honor ourselves as we lean through this very unique process of, what I will say, healing, because we heal ourselves through our mothering, but also growth and how we birth our babies, we nurture our babies, and we release them ultimately. And I just want to share, my son wrote me this letter when he was 20 from the monastery. And he wrote me this and he was like going into Dharma. It was a Buddhist monastery, but he was very God-centered. He ended up just like God is all things toward his ends. But he wrote me this letter and he said, you birthed me, you fed me, you raised me, you let me go. You took care of me when I was sick, and you let me go when the time was right. Anything I've ever said to hurt you, I deeply regret. In this life, we all have great teachers, and I'm just grateful that you are one of mine. I love you, Mom. So my son wrote a love letter to me at 20. So when I found that, I refound it 6 months after he passed, I was like, I did right by my baby. I did right. And that brings me great, great peace.
We were previously, earlier today, I was recording and we were talking about this concept of you're planting seeds with your children and then they get to choose when they nourish them. But at least you're planting the seeds. You're creating the opportunity. You're having the conversations. You don't always know if it's sinking in or if you're being heard, but at some point you'll go, oh, they were listening. Oh, they were watching. And when that comes back, oh, it's amazing. And I have to share, I've had a struggle this last year with my daughter where her mental health went completely kaput. And she's given me permission to share because there's an interesting ending here that I think is important for some moms to understand about identity and resilience. So my daughter needed a coping method, and mine has always been music. And so she asked if she could have my keyboard in her room. And I surprised her and put it in there when she was at her dad's and came back and it was in her room. And then I just walked away. I didn't show I was super excited about the idea that she was going to use music because that's what speaks to me. I just walked away. A year ago, maybe even this Friday, nope, would have been the Friday before Mother's Day, we were in the ER. It had gotten so bad. And she started learning the piano. She started learning her coping method. She started doing art. She started doing things. I just let her find her way and was very patient and very loving. And about 2 weeks ago, she got up in front of the whole school and played a song she taught herself and sang with her sister in front of everyone. And I was just sitting there thinking, I would have never imagined a year ago, this is where we would be now. And I
Mhm.
think that's life with our kids when the really hard times come, because when they hurt, we hurt. Oh, we hurt.
Mhm.
And we want to fix it. And sometimes all we can do is love and pray and be there. But then there's these moments like your son's letter where it comes back around, and there's no greater joy and there's no greater fulfillment than when your child has really stepped into who they are and you know that you got to be a part of it.
It's so beautiful. That's the most beautiful story. And thank you so much for sharing that planting seed image. And it's true for our coaching too, and it's so true for mommies because sometimes maybe in life you may never see the seeds you planted, but know that you planted them from all of your heart, that you've imprinted them with your true essence. And you're doing the right thing. And I would say to you also that it's all the things that you're doing that you don't even think that they're noticing. Like for me, it was always like I was driving down the road and I'd be like, pull over, because a woman would be walking along the side of the road at night, dragging a suitcase in the rain. And my kids are like, what are you doing? I'm like, it's raining. She needs a ride. I bring them home. My kids come home and they're like, someone's in the house. I'm like, you guys are all sleeping in the room. This family's, and then my kids are like, mom, but I know, as weird as they thought I was, I know they noticed that I was in service. And this is the most important thing. And I know that they are like that. They are service babies. And for me, that's a really important seed. And I'm so grateful that you shared that story, that your daughter has come into herself and, you just imprinted it. Your seed was just leaving the keyboard in and not saying anything and stepping back and letting her be and having
Yeah.
faith that she was going to be okay.
It was not an easy thing to do because you
Oh,
you
no.
want to fix it. You want
Yes.
to do something, but really sometimes the best thing is to do nothing, just be there. I even remember there were moments through all of it where I'd just come and be in her room just to be a presence there. No conversation, nothing was said, but I was there. And I fought so hard to just be there for my kids. I'm very misunderstood, I think, sometimes by some as a single mom in the culture that I'm in.
Right.
But
Totally.
I know I want to be there for them. And that doesn't look the way some people like. And I'm going to school, I'm doing the things that I can, but everything that I do allows me to be flexible and allows me to be there for my kids because I'm their rock. I have them full time. And
Mhm.
so it means being present. And when I'm not present, boy, you better believe my love and my prayers are constantly going out, that I'm sending my energy out. And I have an oldest one as well, who I put up for adoption, who the relationship hasn't really evolved yet. And that's all I
Mhm.
can do in that case, all I can
Right.
do. And it's weird because people don't understand that grief, because grief with a loss, when someone's on the other side, they're okay. They're in a better
100%.
place. But when there's grief and you're just separated and they're
Mm.
out there somewhere and they might need you, but they're not reaching out to you or you have no way, it's very interesting to navigate that because it doesn't really resolve. And it becomes this bittersweet thing that when I get a chance to connect with that child, I just relish it. And then I have to wait. And then I
Ooh,
relish it. And
I
I have to
can't
wait.
imagine. That is like, talk about like resiliency. I mean, the ability to release in grace. That's a very noble, babe. That's really, I simply can't imagine. And I hear that a lot with people who are like, I can't imagine losing a child. And I go, I don't want you to imagine. I don't
Yeah.
want you to, because it's like, oh, people are like, oh, I sit in there so uncomfortable. And I'm like, you don't have to imagine. I don't want to
Yeah.
imagine that for you. Right. So it's like, it's also like grief. It's also the grace of letting people off the hook, because they
Yeah.
don't have to be with you in that experience. Right. So the same thing with you sharing that story is like, I simply can't imagine. Right. But I guarantee there are a lot of people that are listening that are like, wow, I know what that feels like. And that's just a whole other level.
And there's all kinds of moms and there's all kinds of variations of this in relationships. And if anything that I can get out here with the Resilient Mother podcast is just to let people that are moms that may feel different know that you are still mom. Your role is still sacred. Whatever
Mm,
it looks like, you get to decide your identity as a mom. You get the power and you have it within you to create what you want for your family. And don't let anyone tell you any different. It's okay if you're different. Is it working for you? Are your kids happy? Are they healthy? Do they feel loved? Do they have faith? Then you're doing enough. Please know you're doing enough.
That's so beautiful. I just want to hear you say that like 5 times. No, because it's such a beautiful, peaceful, gorgeous. I mean, I hope you guys all took that in. You guys are listening, because you are enough. What you're providing is enough. It's okay. And we see you, and we love you as where you are. And you're not alone, in that there are other moms that are just like you, or maybe not just like you, that are still going to create safe space for you as you evolve and grow in your divineness as a mom and as a separate being. Because I think that's part of it, right? When we talk about identity, so we don't want to lose our identity about who we are, because at some point in time, those babies are going to launch. So we want to ensure that we really know what feels good for us. And I appreciate that you shared that by thinking about what did you love as a child, because oftentimes those are the things we really truly do go back to. Those are the places that when empty nests are, it's funny because this is a funny story for empty nester mommies that are approaching that, is people are like, oh, you need to get a dog. You need to get, and I'm like, I don't have anything living in my house. I got no animals. I don't even have plants. Don't give me a plant. Because there is another side of this mothering thing, is that you become the nurturer of other things. So understand, like, I'm a mom, 3 babies, like 2 living and 1 that's passed, but I'm still a nurturer. Like I said, with the cookie dough, that's no lie. Open it up. There's some there. They're not monk cookies, but they're just as good. But like, you become your evolution as a mom becomes your purpose and your legacy in other areas of your life. So just because your babies aren't with you, whatever you've learned about yourself, whatever those qualities are, that's what the world needs more of. And I realize that much of my work, this is the way God's grace is. This is my new identity, is I coach an awful lot of young men that are struggling with mental health issues. So I got Will is delivering me with a bunch of new babies of beautiful young men in their 20s and 30s that need Mama Kate. Maybe not to make them cookies, but they need love, because they don't feel supported in a culture that does not support men. And so I'm grateful for this opportunity to be the divine nurturer, because that's the evolution, Tiff, is like we become the nurturer in our feminine energy to help others. And that's a great honor. And I'm deeply grateful. So know not that whatever you're doing right now, whatever work you're doing, this identity that is evolving as you grow is the way you're going to serve the world. It really, truly is. It really, truly is.
There's no coincidence who crosses your path. They have crossed your path for a reason. I mean, the chances of Kate and I even meeting and finding that we're on the same vibration, the chances of that, what are the chances? But you have to be open to it, and then recognize it and appreciate, why is this person in front of me? Why is this my child? But then it's, why is this person? Because that person's also a child of God. We're all brothers and sisters. We all have a father we're all striving to get home to, in a sense. And so we're here to help each other.
Yeah. And we knew right away. Tiffany and I were like this. And we're maybe generations apart, but we were like, hi. We knew
You're my
right
sister.
away. Yeah, we're like, hey, what's up? Oh, you're weird too? Okay. No, you never fit in either? Oh, good. Perfect. You're mama 3? Me too. Right? So that's bonding. And, I just have to say, Tiffany, I know we hadn't talked in a little bit, and then we were able to connect a little bit before we hit record. And I just want to say I'm deeply honored. And every time I haven't seen someone for a little bit and they fill me in on where they're at, I'm like, I can sleep it. Now I can sleep, because we carry we never turn it off, the worries about our babies. And Tiffany's like my baby.
Yeah.
Right? So when you hear people going like, man, like, and you hear how they've evolved through challenges, and you're like, Because it's like, making sure all your kids are home at the end of the night. When I hear the evolution of someone's story, of they've been able to work through something that was really challenging, and your daughter's mental health, and your identity in your church, and how you're perceived, and how your love of yourself and love of God is your centering force. And it's like, you're okay with however anyone perceives you, because you're cool on who you are. And it's beautiful to see this. And you know what? As women, as mommies, remember this. We are also the nurturers of our friends. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Whatever they bring, whatever their dreams are, I believe it's the highest honor to hold those dreams of our friends, even when they're struggling, and be able to say, I see you, I love you, and I believe in you. And boy, nothing can replace that for sure.
And the world needs so much more of those cheerleaders out there right now in the world, because there's a choice every day. There's positive and there's negative, and it's just a choice. And so, yeah, we may be seen sometimes as these annoying positive people, but we've just learned to choose it, to embrace who we are, and we find we're happier because of it. And we don't compare.
The word enthusiasm, it's like, it means in God. Enthuse. It means in God. It's in the divine. So when people are like, you're too enthusiastic, you're too outgoing, and I'm like, that's your problem. I'm in God. You're offended by my God energy? That's not my problem, right? So when I actually looked up the definition of what enthusiasm was, I'm like, that is not my problem. Right?
And you know the story of my sparkles, right? When we met, I just randomly decided to wear sequins to this first event coming out of COVID with a bunch of coaches. And by the third day, other people were wearing sequins. And our thing we were saying to each other was permission to shine. Just permission to shine your light. Just permission to be your truth and be who you are. And that's what I loved about that event that we met. It was pretty unique and special, that group of people in that room that day. And I've kept in touch with most of them, because that's my vibration. Those are my people. And we're the kind of people that just want to spread this joy and this love and this truth, and being resilient in your identity and just owning it, because the world needs you. The world is waiting for you to step into who you were meant to be. There's someone that needs exactly your words, your actions, and you are an instrument of God. You just got to allow yourself to be a conduit of being his hands, his feet, and his mouthpiece upon the earth, and watch the miracles that happen when you allow that to flow.
Yes, I couldn't say it any better. That was perfect. You're magnificent.
Thanks, Kate. That means a lot to me.
I'm like a mother. I'm going to start crying like I'm in the first row of my kid's graduation. That's so fun. Well, I appreciate you. I'm so grateful to be part of this. If you all need any support around grief, transformation, if you're ready to disrupt your identification in ways that will bring you and elevate you, I'm your girl. I'm a high performance coach. I'm a success coach. But if you need additional support, you can reach out to me. I am Kate McKay on Instagram, but I'm around, I'm about, and I just want you to know I love you. I see you. I believe in you. And whatever your too much of is, whatever that is for you, it may not be too many sparkles, may not be too much enthusiasm, but maybe you're too thoughtful. Maybe you're too quiet. Maybe you're too smart. Whatever that is for you, your two, trust and believe. That's the gift you were given. And we need you. Tiffany and I need you. The world needs you to lift into that. So thank you so much for listening in. We love you and we appreciate you. And Tiffany, I can't even say it enough. I don't even need to say anything else. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Love having you here. I love you to pieces, and love to our audience. Thank you for listening. Next month, we're actually going to be talking about elevating your standards. So once you've really stepped into your identity, guess what? You get to elevate your community, and we'll get into that next month. If you'd like to be a guest, please just reach out to me. I do some beta coaching with certified high performance coaching as well. My niche is kind of more in narcissist recovery, and I want to help women to step back into themselves and their truth through high performance coaching. But I tell you what, you want someone who's going to hold you accountable, Kate is your lady. So she's awesome.
I promise. And I'll make you cookies. I'll mail you cookies. Oh my God. Thank you so much, babe. And I love your description of what you do. That's some powerful stuff. Really powerful. Because imagine like what you have to go through to live through that, even as a powerful energy, that you still had to go through that. So I honor you for that too. But thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate you sending love, and thanks for tuning in.
Yes. We believe in you, believe in yourself, and God bless. And we'll see you on the next episode of the Resilient Mother podcast.